All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us for our second great seminar of the day here at the 2020 Florida Boxing Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony Weekend. We are very, very pleased to have one of the members of the original class of the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, the class of 2009. He has been a trainer, a promoter, an announcer, he's done an author, he's done just about everything in the sport of boxing. He also serves as the Vice President of the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. He's here to present the art of boxing coaching. We are very happy to have the one and only Mr. Steve Canton.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Love this guy here. Best ring announcer in boxing, right? Let's hear for Bob Alexander.
Thank you.
I would never do a show in the state of Florida, even out of the state, without bringing him along as the announcer.
Thank you so much.
So we're so glad for you. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Steve.
And thank you all for coming here. We appreciate it. Glad to see everybody here. At my age, glad to see anybody. But we want to have some fun, but we also want to talk about some truths. All of you people are here for a particular reason. And that reason is because you love the sport of boxing, or you're connected to the sport of boxing, or you follow the sport of boxing, or you're in the sport of boxing, right? One of those reasons are the reason you're here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how many here have been to these Hall of Fame induction weekends previously? Okay. How many has never been? This is the first time. You guys are going to love it. And the ones that's coming for the first time, we want you to keep coming back more. It's going to get better and better and better every year. We've had 12 years right now. And in the original class of 2009, which I was fortunate to be among, they're dwindling. We're losing them frequently. There's not too many of us left in the original class. But each class, new inductees join the list, and as time goes by, it gets bigger and better, and it's all a family. It's a reunion. We get to see people we haven't seen for years. I want to talk a little bit about the sport of the art of teaching and boxing training, because there's a big difference between being a coach, so to speak, and being a teacher. And what's lacking today is the art of teaching fighters properly. It's kind of a sad situation when you watch a good athlete walk in a gym, wants to be a great fighter, works very hard, and everything he's doing is wrong. And why is it wrong? It's wrong because you have a person perhaps who never boxed in his life, or maybe had a couple of amateur fights, or maybe was taught incorrectly by someone else, and he watches YouTube and he goes around and he sees what everyone else does, and he does the same thing with this fighter, not knowing what he's doing. And who pays the price? Several people. The kid himself that's working hard, the fans that watch the sport of boxing, and the sport of boxing in general, because the skill level decreases. And it seems to me as the skill level decreases, the talking increases from all these fighters. And it's not a good situation that we had in the past. Completely different. You have two ways of teaching, and they both have to work together. You have to teach someone physically, technically correct. You have to teach someone mentally correct. They go together. You can't have someone physically great and mentally weak, and you can't have someone mentally great and physically weak. It goes together, but nobody teaches, I can't say nobody, few people teach the mental aspect. They focus on physical. And you have fighters that are good physically, but when it gets rough, when it gets a problem, they quit. They don't know what to do. There's no plan B. There's a catchphrase in boxing today that it's like, you know when you rub that chalk on a blackboard and it gives you that bad feeling, that screechy feeling, like, you know what I'm talking about? When I hear someone say, styles make fights, that is so common today. I despise that statement greatly, because what that says, if you interpret what the words actually mean, styles make fights. What that means is, I'm at the mercy, I've got one style. That's the way I fight. I'm at the mercy of my matchmaker to put me in a ring against someone where my style looks good. And if I can't beat this guy, my excuse is styles make fights. Years ago, you never heard that. What you heard was fighters make fights. What you do is you have to be multidimensional. You got to be versatile. You got to do everything. And that way you adapt to your opponent. They used to have something, the old guys remember, reading your opponent. Usually the fight starts, you read your opponent, and you adapt to him. And then what happens, he reads and adapts to you, and it's a back and forth give and take action from round 1 to round 15 in those days, and 12 rounds eventually. Today, what happens in round 1 happens every round because there's no change. They can't, they're one-dimensional. Then they hide behind styles make fights. Fighters make fights, and you're not a fighter. You're a one-dimensional fighter because you were taught that, and what you're doing isn't even that well. So this is what we want to get at. I want to leave words of wisdom and things to remember so that when I'm long gone, the sport can carry on properly. The thing to realize when you train someone in a gym at night, and I said at night for a reason, I'll get back to that, you have to train somebody the way they are going to fight. You cannot train them differently than they're going to fight. And that happens all day long, all the time in gyms. They train doing strange things, strange exercises, not even appropriate to boxing, and then they wonder why they get tired after 4 or 5 rounds. We keep hearing these days that these athletes today, they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, they're mentally stronger, they take supplements, they have better health foods, better scientific training. And my question is, if all of that were to be true, why are they all tired after 4 or 5 rounds? In the old days, they go 15 rounds nonstop. Oh, we had poor diets, we had poor training methods, we had no supplements, we had old-fashioned, antiquated methods, but we went nonstop for 15 rounds. And when the fight ended on Saturday night, we were in the gym Monday. We didn't get on the microphone after we retired 4 rounds, holding each other up to the bell. The fight's over and the winner says, "God bless everybody, thank you, now I'm going on vacation for 3 months."
Isn't it 6 months?
That's a little different. Another difference is a guy walks in the gym, and he's a fighter, and he says, "I'm going to be the greatest fighter in the world," but he's going to train when fights take place. We used to say all the time, a fighter trains when fighters take place. Champions train all the time. There's a difference. You train all the time. My good friend Pinklin Thomas over there can tell you, former heavyweight champ of the world, took a fight at the last minute in a casino. Heard his name announced on the loudspeaker for a fight on NBC Wide World of TV. He was ready. He took the fight and won. Got his exposure. Became champion of the world. Now, if he was like today's fighters, well, I can't take that fight. I need 6 months to get in shape. Am I right, Pink?
You're right.
Okay, so there's several factors there. Let me say a couple of things first. When a person walks in, a beginner to a good fighter is a huge difference. Even today, a person walks in a gym, they start boxing amateur. There's a huge difference in that kid from when he first walked in to when he's competing in the amateur ring today. Huge difference. From a good fighter to a great fighter, very little difference. Whole bunch of little things. All the little things add up to a big accomplishment. That's what's missing. The guys get in there today, they're okay. Now they're great fighters. I'm an all-time great. I fight 45 fights in over 20 years, or 50 fights in 20 years, and I'm undefeated. But I pick and choose who I fight. And some of them are exhibitions against guys that never fought, and I'm the greatest of all time. And I say, a guy you never heard of by the name of Harry Greb fought 45 times in 1 year. And he won every one of them. And 11 of them were against Hall of Famers. And they were in all 3 weight classes, middleweight, light heavy, and heavy, when there was only 8 weight classes in the sport. And he had over 300 fights in his career. So how does that compare? No knowledge. No knowledge. And that's what I want to get at. The fighters today who are fighting don't have knowledge of the previous fighters. The trainers who are training today don't have knowledge of the previous trainers. So what they do is they look at each other, copy each other, and come out with new methods that are improper. And it destroys the sport because there's no real technique. Let me see, Pink, come here for a second, if you will. Just for a second, I want to ask a couple of questions for you.
Yes, sir.
I want to say one thing. A couple of years back, I put a family and friends reunion out on Facebook we're going to have. Within seconds, I get a text from this gentleman right here, and also Mark Lanton. And both texts were the same. They said, "I'm family, we're coming." And they are family. Beth came, my wife came from a big family, 8 brothers and sisters. I got probably about 80 or 90 brothers around this world. that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Stand there for a second in your pose. Stand in your stance. Okay, if I'm going to throw let's do it the other way so they can see something different. If I'm going to throw a left jab to you,
I know.
how are you blocking that jab? You're blocking with an open right hand, am I right?
Yeah.
You're blocking it that way, am I right? Everybody? If I throw a jab, it's coming, that's his block.
Right.
That's correct technique. That's 100% correct technique. No argument there. Everyone agrees it.
Yes.
You block the jab primarily with the open glove so it's relaxed.
Right.
And you can do things off it. Now, on the other hand, I don't jab sideways.
Right.
If I jab this way, you got me here, you got me here, right? But if I keep this elbow down and then I step and I throw it, I got to know my distance, how I can step in and my punch lands right on that target. My target is the chin. But if he stops my target with his hand, we'll have to keep it there for a second. I got to know that distance, right? Now, if I do that properly, my shoulder is blocking my chin without me doing anything, just by technique.
Right.
Okay, so my question is, if everyone agrees, you can talk to everyone in the sport of boxing, they all agree that that's the basic way you stop a jab with an open right hand. Relaxed, open, relaxed, catch the jab. No argument, everybody agrees to that, right?
Yeah.
If that is true, which it is, I do not understand, and it drives me crazy when someone puts a mitt on and puts their left hand up instead of the right hand. Why would you do something different in training than what the fighter's going to see in the ring? His opponent's not going to catch it with his left hand, he's going to catch it with his right hand.
Correct.
Now, if I put a mitt up, my left hand, now we can switch it around for a second from this direction.
Okay.
If I put my left hand to catch his jab, look what happens. First of all, it's forcing his jab to come over here, which means it is impossible to keep his hand under his elbow under his jab. Impossible, physically impossible. He can't jab over here, keeping his, which means he's now opening his elbow up and throwing a punch that way, right? He opens up the elbow and he comes over here. Now he's wide open here, he's wide open here. I got my choice, right? Also, he's got zero snap on his jab, it's just an arm punch. There's no and boom, there's that whip. Okay? Now what happens is, now he's going to turn right around and throw a right hand to this side. Now what happens, he's wide open on here. Now if you are in a match and your opponent throws a 1-2, it's going to one target, it's going to the chin.
Yeah.
So why do you train to hit a jab over here and a right hand over here? Are you fighting a two-headed guy? Or are you fighting a guy with a giant head? Your target is here. You don't jab here and back here, and I'm wide open on this side here, and I'm wide open on this side here. It gets worse than that, if you think that's bad. Not only that, as I said, here's my target, right? I got to know my distance where I can step in and snap my jab off and land on that target and come the right hand right behind it. And I bring this back in position for my hook. But if I'm here and here, and I don't know my distance, you know why I don't know my distance? Because while that punch is coming, this idiot's snapping it, throwing his...
Shortening up your
he's
shot.
going ahead and shorten your punches. It's on its way here. You're slapping at it. Now I'm going to intercept his punch. It might be halfway. It might be over. He might throw his jab, and I cut it off over here. And he throws his right hand, and I cut it off over there, right? I'm slapping him, so he cannot learn his distance. He cannot throw the proper technique. And now I'm a trainer, I'm complaining, oh my goodness, I keep injuring my elbows and my shoulders, they're hurting me. That's because, where's that sign? I'm an idiot. No, but the fact is, I don't understand if the technique is one way in the fight, why are they teaching it the wrong way in the gym? Now, one other thing, if you go back on a video and you look at fighters, 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when you look at them and you just watch them shadow boxing, just shadow boxing, they're extending their punch, they're throwing straight punches, extending them, shadow boxing. You watch guys today shadow boxing, they're doing this. They're doing this. They're shortening their punches and they're going across because that's, just looking at them shadow boxing shows the difference because they're taught that in the gym. So how are they going to fight differently in the fight? So my big complaint is about the mitts. Now in the old days we didn't have mitts. You guys remember what they did is we both had gloves on.
Yeah,
and if we're doing a drill, he's on offense for a round and I'm on defense.
Right.
And now I'm on offense and he's on defense.
Right.
And you go maybe 10, 12, 15 rounds of alternating.
Yeah.
And if he lands a little hard one here, I'll get him next round. But you're learning the right technique. You don't sit there with mitts teaching someone the wrong way, am I right? Yeah. So that's the thing there. Now, how did the mitts come into play? Anyone have any ideas? Mitts came into play by wannabe boxing people who never boxed, literally. What happened was there are people that love the sport, like there are many fans, which is great, but they wanted to get involved. So they didn't really know how to, so they were watching people train, and they see us doing these drills with gloves on, offense, defense, then sparring, and so on, and the routine, and they say, you know what, if I made me a mitt, I can get in there and catch punches and be part of the training, and they would start to love it. So what they did is they created mitts, then they would get in the ring, and they're too scared to hold a hand here because they don't want to get hit, because they're not used to it. So they'll stand there and hold hands like this. And then they start throwing, and then what happens, it goes on YouTube. And people see that, and everyone copies that. And that's what's hurt the sport. It goes down in the gym training, shadow boxing this way, no extension. Throwing punches improperly, no defense. And then throwing a punch and dropping a hand on the way back. All that stuff is what's killing the sport. Now, they say there's shortcuts. In boxing, there are no shortcuts. In boxing, the shortcut, the way to think of it, a shortcut is a trip to nowhere. Think about that. A shortcut in boxing is a trip to nowhere. You can't take a shortcut. A couple of examples. First of all, in boxing, you have to get up and separate road work from gym work. Because it's like a battery, you drain down. Then you build it up, then you drain it down, then you build it up. Thank you so much. A hand for Pickling Thomas. My brother, former heavyweight champion. Okay, now, what I'm talking about like that is you go out there in the morning doing your road work. Your road work is critical. You have to do road work. Now, you can do road work different ways. You want distance running one day. You might want to do sprints one day, and you might want to combine sprints and distance. We had a whistle drill we did by the rounds also, where you run for 3 minutes, but you wouldn't know if it's a sprint or jog. I blow the whistle, you start jogging. I blow the whistle, you start sprinting. The sprint could be anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. Hear the whistle, get back to the jog. Just like in boxing, you up and down. Then you series of whistles, round's over, you walk for 60 seconds. Round two, we also incorporate that. But you do road work in the morning. During the day, you're resting up from that road work, recuperating. You go to the gym at night and train at night. Then your body rests after the gym. Now, when I say night and day, why is that? Think about things certainly. Remember, the biggest thing that I said you got to remember is you got to train the way you fight. You got to train the way you fight. If you train differently than the way you fight, you're not properly prepared for the fight you're going to have because you weren't trained for it properly. So if you want to fight and train the same, you fight at nighttime. How in the world would you train every day of your life in the afternoon and fight every fight at night when your body's not adjusted to it? Your body is adjusted to going to the gym in the afternoon, training hard, going back and resting. All of a sudden on fight night, your routine changes and you're lost during the day, you're ready to fight. But now you got to wait till the night to fight. Your body's not used to it. You got to train the way you fight. I would rather be at home with my wife and my dog and cat at night, watching TV and relax. Not fair to the fighters. Fighters fight at night, they train at night. So my gym will be 32 years old in Fort Myers in March. We've been there almost every night all those years. Yes?
So you can do the aerobics, like running during the day, and then you go to the gym at night?
Yeah, you want to separate your running from your gym work because you don't want to run, then train, then your body's trained. Because then you can't put out, you want to run, recover from the run, then train, then recover during the night from it. That's ideal. Okay, and the guys today, they want to go to camp for 6 months. Well, how are you going to go to camp for 6 months for a fight and then take a 3-month vacation? Then your weight goes up 30, 40 pounds and then, no. We used to train, as I said, a fighter trains when a fight comes up, a champion trains every day. The difference is you only train to maintain your condition. You're not training to get sharp. You're not training hard for a big-time fight. You're training every day waiting for the phone call. Ideally, in the old days, if you got that phone call, I got a fight coming up, you're already in shape. Now you want to say, okay, I got to fight 6 weeks from now. That's ideal. Because 6 weeks' time, I'm in shape to start with. I got a fight scheduled. I'm going to spend 2 weeks of building up. 3 weeks of very heavy training. 1 week of tapering back physically and working mentally. I go in the ring, I'm what they call peak condition. I'm perfect. Then what happens is you take off 2 days and you're back in the gym again. And your weight is always the same weight, walking around, and usually you fight to the next lower weight class for the weigh-in. And you never up and down, you're there. Now you got, last I heard, 17 weight classes. You had about 19 different organizations, 4 major ones. You got a world champion in every one, but there's only one world. How do you have 300 world champions or 30 world champions? We got one world. Used to be 8 weight classes, 1 champion in every one. That was one of the days when the contenders were better than the fighters today, the champions today. But let's go back to a few things. We talked about when to train, how to separate it, right? Fighters fight in extreme heat. People don't realize it. They're in the audience. It's air conditioned. It's nice. They're sitting there in their seats. They can get up and go to concessions. They can relax. They can watch everything, have a good time. It's comfortable. It's air conditioned. Inside the ring, it's hotter than hell. It is hot. You got the ring lights. If it happens to be televised, you got TV lights. It's very hot in the ring. It's comfortable in the audience, which is what you want. You want the audience to be comfortable enjoying the fight. You want to be in the ring. You're in the heat. You can't train in air conditioning. Then you go in the heat and fight, and you wilt in the heat. You can't take it. You train in the heat. You train at night. I have one fighter that many here remember, David Armstrong, that I had lightweight, won 4 titles as a pro, had him in the amateur with 115 fights with 108 wins, amateur turned pro. We won a fight, in particular, WBO title fight in Germany against an undefeated guy, Thomas Seiler, his name was, supposed to be their new superstar coming up. We fought him in his hometown in Germany. We won the fight because we trained in the heat. And here's why, when I say that. We got in this arena, huge arena in Germany, filled to capacity for their hometown guy. All of a sudden, the air conditioning in the arena broke. Now, if you can imagine a huge building with all those bodies in there, closed in, and no air conditioning, it got so hot so quick, it was unbelievable. I had a bucket, my bucket, quarter bucket filled with ice. By the 4th round, it was already liquid water. That's how hot it was. It turned from a full bucket of ice to liquid in four rounds. What is that, 12 minutes, a minute round? 16 minutes time, it was water, okay? As the fight progressed, David kept getting stronger because we get into his rhythm. We fight in heat. This superstar German kept getting weaker because he's not used to training, fighting in the heat. Finally, David knocked him out in round 10 and won a WBO title out. And I attribute it because of the way we train, the way you fight, okay? Now, how many people here put music on in their gym? Okay, I despise music immensely for several reasons. And I'm saying things that I'm going back to real old school. I'm not talking about recent years. I'm talking way back, because to me, you can't undo sliced bread. You can't remake things that are already good. You got to do as they were, as long as they're proven successful. And they were proven successful because the results were there, and everything done since has been proven unsuccessful because the results are not there. Okay? Here's why music is horrible for a fighter, okay? In my opinion, and the old people's opinion, older people. Most songs are 3 minutes long, correct? In the neighborhood of 3 minutes long. All rounds are 3 minutes long for the pros, right? So therefore, the length of time is similar. Every single song has one rhythm. That rhythm might be slow, medium, or fast, but it's one rhythm. It doesn't vary. You put a song on, start to finish, it's the same rhythm. Again, train the way you fight. How many fighters ever fight to one rhythm? Impossible. You're in the fight. You pick it up. You slow it down. You sprint around. You take some time off, walk around. You pick it up with combinations. You're constantly changing your rhythm. So why would you train to one rhythm? You train to one rhythm, you cannot go up and go down. Not only that, if you're training to music, what's happening is the music has your mind lost, it's not functioning, it's floating. You're listening to music, you're doing a routine like it's automatic. There's no mental training. Your mind is not there. It's just relaxing and floating to this music while you're working. The round's over, you're done. You didn't change. You didn't change any rhythm. Now you're going to go in a ring. How are you going to be able to think? How are you going to be able to react? How are you going to be able to pick it up, slow it down? You can't. You're not trained that way. And that's why I despise music. If you put music on, it destroys a fighter. And I'll tell you what, I can sit here with you, go to a fight, and watch two fighters in the ring, and in about 30 to 45 seconds, I will tell you, and I put a $100 bill on the table and say, this guy has music when he trains, this guy doesn't. Because I can see it. And if I can see it, the old people who look for that stuff can see it. The modern people cannot see it because they all do it. But if the modern fighter got in a ring with an old-fashioned fighter, they would pay the price. And a perfect example is Bernard Hopkins. You all know Bernard Hopkins was a world champion past the age of 50. And Bernard was old school, and he made the statement, the fighters today are bigger, younger, stronger, and all that stuff, but they don't know how to fight. And he knew they fought to one style. So he would go in there with them, he'd fight to their style on purpose to get them comfortable. Then he'd pick it up, and they're struggling to keep up with him because they're not trained that way. And as soon as they would almost catch up, he'd slow it way down to a walk. And they're lost. And he would constantly change their rhythm. And while he's changing the rhythm, he's throwing counter punches and catching him with everything. And he dominated at his age 50 because he's playing with the modern fighter who are younger, bigger, faster, but didn't know how to fight the old methods. Interesting?
Yeah.
Is it a fact?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All agreed on it.
Fact.
Now, if that's all in agreement, then why do fighters not change? Then they got these things like these noodles. And they throw that with mitts. How does that compare to boxing today? The noodle belongs in the river or in the pool for the kids to play with, not in the boxing ring. You're going to hit me with a noodle, what do I do with it? I got no noodles coming at me in the ring. They lost a noodle doing something like that, right?
Right.
Crazy. Okay, they got this long pole with a glove at the end of it going down there, right? Where's that long, slow pole going to come from? From the corner of your opponent? Because your opponent's not going to throw a punch like that. What are you preparing for? For the corner man joining in? Tag team? I mean, I don't understand these kind of stuff. It's crazy. What you got to do is road work in the morning. And the treadmill cannot take the place of road work. You might do it in addition to, but not in place of. You cannot take a shortcut. Shortcut is a trip to nowhere. Okay? You got to do it the right way. Are there questions or anything? I want to answer any questions, and I want to make sure that we get things the right way so everybody's happy with what it was. Yes?
If you're, maybe I'm not understanding the difference between road work and a treadmill if you're going the same distance.
Yes. What the difference is, a treadmill is on a machine and everything's perfect. Everything's perfect. Okay? You can set the recline that you want, and it's one way until you change it.
Right.
You're on level ground. It's never, okay, you do road work, you got holes, you got rocks, you got terrain that's uneven. So you're running, and you're not running on level ground. So your body is getting adjusted and getting in shape while you're running on the ground. So it gets really in shape, and that way when you're in the ring, you can move quickly and not get tired. If I always run one way, I'm good at that one thing, but I'm no good at anything else. It's like a person goes in the ring, he loves one speed bag. The others he doesn't like so much. So every night you see him on the same speed bag that he likes. What good is it to work on something you're good at already? You're already good at it. But if you put that person on a different speed bag, he can't get the rhythm. Why? Because he didn't work on it. It's like the treadmill and the road work. You got to do what's same as what's in the fight. You want to be prepared for it. So in a ring, what you have is you have different heavy bags, different double end bags, different speed bags. It's better to do one round in every bag than all the rounds on one bag because you want variety. You want instant variety where you can adapt to a rhythm that's different. Right. Different speed, different weight, different rhythm. And you want it all different heights.
Get used to making adjustments.
Different, you can adjust instantly. And that way, you're not that one-dimensional fighter. Right. I can adjust. I can change. Okay? There's so many variances in the sport that's so important that it's critical that's gone. It really is sad to see someone wanting it so bad and working so hard, turning wrong. You cannot lift weights and box. Impossible. They do it today, you cannot do it. Lifting weights develop the strength muscles, the short strength muscle. That is power instantly, period. Boxing is a long twitch muscle, speed reflexes. You want speed reflexes developed, you don't want the power muscle. Because the power muscle, what that does, it has no endurance. So what you're doing is you're constricting it, you're making it tight. That's what's happening to baseball players today. They're all getting injured because they're so tight. And that's a speed sport. It's a reflex sport, like boxing is. You got to stay away from weights, and you got to train natural weight in the gym with the routine. So when you have a fighter, and usually today fighters will float. They'll go to this trainer for a year, go to that trainer, go to this trainer, that trainer. There's no loyalty. That hurts a fighter. What happens there with loyalty is this. Every time they go to a new trainer, this trainer looks at them, and they do everything from scratch. Get rid of everything and start different. And then they go to someone else, they get rid of everything and start different. And what happens is you have a confused kid that knows everything about nothing. What you have to do if you take someone over as a trainer, and Emmanuel Stewart and I worked closely that way for many years. We were close friends for over 40 years. I trained many of Emmanuel's fighters with him and for him, and he trained my fighters with me and for me because we were the same in many ways, and we knew that, and we were confident in that. But what happens is, when you have a fighter come to your gym that you're going to start training who boxed before, the first thing I do is look at him, and I analyze it. What's he doing right? Okay, he's doing these things right. Do not change what's right. It's right. Why change it? Leave it alone. These are good things. Leave the right alone. Okay, what's he doing bad? What's wrong? Get rid of the bad habits. Leave the good alone. Get rid of the bad habits. Now you've got somebody you're ready to add more good habits to. That's the way you should train someone. That way they benefit from you. But you start everyone from scratch, you destroy a fighter. And you destroy yourself. You go to a gym, everybody here has been around the sport, knows this. You go to a gym, everybody fights the same way. Same style. They could be a short guy who's strong and slow and real strong. A tall, skinny guy with no power, they can move good. But they all fight the same way. Why? The trainer's supposed to train the fighter for their style primarily, and then be versatile. They can adapt and do anything else on top of that. You have a primary style, and you have secondary. Plan B, Plan C, Plan Z if you have to. But you can't go and be versatile with your one main thing. That's how it was in the old days. That's not how it is today. You got one style. And it's all the same. One size fits all. Short guys, tall guys. You can't be all the same. You got to look and see what's there. And if you take someone brand new, keep what's good, get rid of the bad, get more ideas. Okay? These are key issues. These are key things. Remember, small difference from good to great. But you got to know the differences. And today they don't know the differences. They look at YouTube and, oh, look at that, look at that. I look at that and I turn, 5 seconds, I'll turn it away. I don't like it. It's bad. It's sad. You know, all these strange things. How about some more questions too? Yes, Brad.
Yeah, can you use music to like stimulate your fighter?
No
to get
music.
ready?
You know why?
Before a fight?
No music.
No music?
Focus your mind.
Yeah, not even the Rocky?
No, not, you want to focus your mind. Because here's what happens. Again, the mind and the body work together. I got to focus. Now, here's the key you just reminded me of too. We said earlier, a round is 3 minutes. A rest period is 1 minute. Okay? In the 1 minute rest period, you lose 10 seconds when cornerman is set out. So you have 50 seconds, right? Now you got 50 seconds when the bell rings before corner's out. But you still got to get to your corner, right? And sit down. So you lose another 5 to 10 seconds before you're seated, right? So in truth, the corner has maybe 45 seconds, maybe 40 seconds, right? To work on you. Okay, now here's the thing. Every fighter should know in their head what a 3 minute round is. Every fighter should know in their head what a 1 minute round or rest period is. You utilize it to your best advantage. So what happens is, the bell rings, the round is over, right? You want to finish the round in your corner. Every time the bell rings, be in your corner and sit down. Make him walk across the ring. If you know the 3 minute clock, you can do that. If you watch Sugar Ray Robinson years ago, he always finished every round in his corner. Now, a couple of factors there. Psychologically, it's not a big deal, but if you're fighting a 10, 12, 15 round fight, about round 6 or 7, the bell rings, and the opponent in their mind goes, damn, he's in his corner again. And he walks across the ring. Just a little psychological, not a big deal. But what is a big deal, if he is cut, and you in your corner when a bell rings, he's got an extra 5 seconds at least before he's in the corner, which gives the cornerman time to work on the cut, which means he might not have enough time to stop the cut, and you might win on a TKO because he didn't have the time to stop the cut because you kept him out of the corner an extra 5 to 7 seconds. On the other hand, if you're cut, you get to work on it immediately. You're in the corner, sit down, start working on it. Right? Okay, so that's utilizing the 3-minute round. Now I get back to the other part of it. The bell rang. You sit on your corner. The cornerman drowns you with water, and here you're choking for 15 minutes because you choked on the water. And then the cornerman compounds that with a ridiculous statement with, how do you feel? You hear it all the time. I hate when how do you feel? I'm dead tired. You just told the guy he's dead tired. Psychologically, how's he going to finish the next 4 rounds because he's dead tired now in his mind? You just told him that. How do you feel? Yeah, I'm tired. Okay, you don't do that. And you don't give him water until he gets his breath. So he sits down and you relax for a second. And you say, give me a deep breath. Hold it. Let it out slowly. One more time. Great. You pull the mouthpiece out. Now you're still relaxed. Now you give him a little bit of water. Just a little bit of water. Swallow if you want him to, or spit if you don't. Okay? Now he's got his breathing back. Now he's relaxed a little bit. He's had his water. Now you review what happened. You don't tell him what he did wrong. You tell him, hey, the guy's dropping his jab on the way back. He's throwing a jab at you, dropping it. Look for his jab, throw the right hand over top. You give him instructions to help him win the fight. Instead of, you got to throw more punches. What are you doing out there? I see you doing nothing. Put more pressure. You didn't tell him how to win the fight. You didn't say he's open for the hook or step over, or throw the jab, step to the right, come back with the right. You don't tell him how to win. You tell him a ridiculous thing. Throw more punches. Or, he's not hurting you. So the fighter says, then who is? The referee? Somebody is. I mean, they tell him stupid stuff. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I had a referee one time follow me to the corner, and he says, do you know where you're at? I said, yeah, I'm in one hell of a fight. Are you enjoying it? So he walked away, yeah. I said, good. So you have situations like that. Now, I'll give you an example. Talk about mental, right? Mental conditioning. Again, let's go back to David Armstrong. We brought his name up earlier. You know him. Okay, when he was going to fight his first 12-round title fight, he had never been past 6 rounds. He fought some 4-rounders, he fought some 6 rounds. Now we're fighting a 12-round title fight all of a sudden, right? He is in winning the fight. 6 rounds are done in the bank. He's looking good. He's dominating for 6 rounds. In the 7th round, I see him getting tired. The bell rings, and he's bent over a little bit, and he starts staggering to the corner, dead tired in the 7th round. And I'm thinking in my head, we still got 5 rounds to go. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 rounds to go, right? And he's dead tired now, right? So what happened is, I didn't wait till him to get to the corner because I saw he's in trouble. I ran to the middle of the ring with him, and I go, man, David, we're in great shape. He looked at me like, what? I said, turn around, look at your opponent. He's on the stool dying. He's dying over there. He turned and saw the guy breathing on the stool, right? I'm walking David back. I sit him down. I said, get your breath. Relax, deep breath. Here's a little water. I said, guess what? I just saw you catch a 2nd win just before the bell rang. You were dead tired. You caught a 2nd round, a 2nd win. The bell rang. He's there dying. We're in great shape. You got a 2nd win. And David went out there and dominated the next rounds because he thought he caught a 2nd win he didn't have. Mental. But if I would have said, how you feeling? Fight's over. And he went on to win that title that night. It's all looking at a guy. You know tricks of the trade? You ever heard of tricks of the trade?
Of course.
Okay. Give me a tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade?
Tricks of the trade. Here's an example.
Tricks of the trade. You can look at somebody in the stomach and punch them to the head.
Okay.
You can wave a glove at him with the other hand.
Did you ever hear of Angelo Dundee cutting the glove of Muhammad Ali against Henry Cooper in London, England, when Cooper knocked him down?
Right.
And they didn't have a 2nd pair of gloves at ringside.
Right.
And after he cuts it with a razor blade, calls the referee, says, the gloves are torn, the gloves are torn. The referee looks at him, You can't use torn gloves because it'll injure the guy with the edge, right?
Bottom
There wasn't gloves at ringside. They had to wait for a couple of minutes, and by that time, Muhammad Ali recovered. He was cash and play at the time, and he won the fight next round, right? So they came up with the Angelo Dundee rule that you had to have spare gloves at ringside after that, right? So we're at the 2009 induction, first year. We're lined up with the cake, beautiful red gloves with our names on it. They said someone cut the cake for publicity purpose. I said, let Angelo cut it, he's got experience. Everybody cracked up, and Angelo growled, I never did such a thing. And then he starts laughing. He said, well, maybe. So he cut the glove. But here's an example of that, okay? You got a guy sitting there, we're in the Nationals. You got a kid named Scott the Sandman Erickson. A few people remember Scott Erickson. Pretty good fighter. We're in the Nationals. We're next up. The fighter in front of me, he is sick. His trainer is trying to keep him in the fight. And he's winning the first round, the second round he got lost, and the third round he was gone and lost the decision. The cornerman comes out of the ring, he's got was eliminated, and he's saying, shaking his head, I couldn't do anything about it, he just was bad cold. There's nothing you could do, we did the best we could. Fine. I didn't say a word because Scott was very bad, he was congested really bad. We walked in the ring, Scott won the first round, and he was already hurt. He comes in the second round, and he's even round, but he's really getting bad with that congestion. So he comes back to the corner. After I take care of him a little bit, I picked his tape up at the end, just a little bit on the glove, put a little Vaseline there and put the tape over it, both gloves. Okay, then he called seconds out. So when he said seconds out, somehow my foot hit the bucket of water and went all over the corner. So the referee calls time and says, you got to clean that up. I said, okay, give me the towel. Wait a minute, the towel disappeared. We got to get a towel. Okay, here comes the towel. We got a towel. We cleaned it up, right? Okay, resume, Fox. I get out. He says, starts the round. Somehow I forgot to give Scott the mouthpiece, so he went out there. Come back for the mouthpiece. Now we got to get the water bottle to rinse it off. So we give him that. He goes and fights. He's in the round. He's doing good now. He had all the rest, right? And he won the other round. And now he's doing good in this round. And now he's starting to get tired again. The glove started, the tape started unwrapping. He come over here, call time, we got to retape the glove, right? So I retaped the glove, but somehow I got that glove, the tape, caught in that rubber glove that I got there, and I had trouble, how it gets attached to the glove that you're on. And somehow it took a little bit of time before he cut that off, which he recovered again. He ended up winning the bronze medal in Nationals.
Tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? Got to have fun, but you got to know what you're doing. And you got the big thing is the safety of the fighter is the most important thing. The accuracy of doing things properly, training them the way they fight, so there's no deviation, getting them prepared physically and mentally, knowing they are the best. They walk in a ring. This is my ring. I can stand in the pocket. No, I can't get hit. I can stand right there and not get hit. Technique. And that's what I want you guys to have in the gym. Is the old technique, not the modern technique. You take an old fighter with a current fighter, there's no comparison skill-wise. How many fighters you hear, they make a sound when they throw a punch? Right? You know what that's doing to an old fighter? You're telling me you are right in front of me, you're in range, you're going to throw a punch. I can close my eyes and know where you are to hit you. You're right there. It's like a baseball pitcher telling the batter, here comes the curveball, here comes the fastball. Why are you telegraphing your punches? Shh, shh, shh.
Announcing. Yeah.
But what's worse than that is your jaw is open in the pocket. And you are guaranteed to be hit sometime or other if you're in the pocket. If you're hit with your mouth open, you got a broken jaw. And they're making scowls on their face. Every time they throw a punch, they telegraph. No, you keep a straight face, keep a smile on your face, so you're having fun. You get hit, it doesn't change. You don't get hit, you're good. How are we in time? Okay, we're getting close. Yeah, because I'll go for about 6 to 8 hours if you want. But any questions? Any questions? We want to have fun. We want to make boxing like it used to be. You know what? They say the future's not like it used to be. Let's make it like it used to be. How do you have an opportunity to be great, really, if you only fight 2 or 3 times in a year, and you're fighting someone else that only fights 2 or 3 times in a year with poor technique, how do you have an opportunity to be great because you're not in there every day? It's like if I have a guitar and I practice a guitar every single day, I'll be good at the end of the year. But if I practice it 12 times in 1 year, I won't be as good. They don't have an opportunity to be as good. They're not fighting as often. They're not fighting proper technique. So don't talk about it. It brings me to a point, talking. I tell this kid today, if you would run as much as your mouth, you would be in shape. Okay, remember, shortcut is a quick trip to nowhere. A fight is signed. They tell everybody, he's a horrible fighter. He can't fight. He's no good. I'm going to knock him out in 2 rounds. How does that build interest to a fight? Who would want to go see a one-sided 2-round knockout? You're not building interest. No one wants to see that. But what happens when you knock him out in 2 rounds or whatever, right? Who did you just beat? Someone who can't fight. Big deal. If you get beat by him, it is a big deal. You told everybody he can't fight, he's no good. And you got beat by him, what happened? No, the way it used to be, the way I teach in my gym, which Ricky knows, being in my gym, and Chris knows, being in my gym, you give respect to the fighters. I'm fighting against a great fighter. I'm coming in shape because I want to beat him. He's a great fighter, I know that. I'm going to work hard, I'm going to put myself in great shape, I'm going to be ready for the fight. We're both coming to fight. You better come watch because we're going to put on a good show for you. Doesn't that build the fight up a little better? Doesn't it make more sense? Yep. Now, what happens if you beat him? You just beat a great fighter. What happens if you got beat by him? You got beat by a great fighter. Yep. It makes more sense. Yep. That's what's missing today, that respect for the fighter. It's not like that in the old days. He says, how am I doing? Well, maybe you have to work real hard to be good enough to be horrible. What should I work on? Work on getting back up. With your style, you'd be down a lot. No. Just relax and have fun. That's the key to boxing. Relax and have fun. If you're tight, you burn energy. If you're tight, you're tight. You can't absorb, take punches. You can't absorb. You want to be relaxed and loose. You got Dahlia Duran being inducted. First father-daughter induction in the Hall of Fame, right? People look at Roberto Duran and say he was just a vicious puncher. No, he was a great boxer. He was versatile. He was what we talked about before, could change his style. He could fight tall guys, short guys, punchers, boxers. He could counterpunch. He can work inside, right? But I'll tell you one thing about him if you go back on films and watch. If he walks into a fight, in the pocket, and a punch comes, he's so relaxed, he doesn't get hit with the thing solid. He rolls the punch off and keeps coming. That's the key to it. Rolling punches. You can't do that unless you're relaxed. You got to relax. You got to have fun. You work hard, have fun, relax. People remember Aaron Pryor. I'll relay a story of Aaron in a gym when we were young, together in Cincinnati. A kid walked in, joined the gym, started training. He was so happy. His idol, Aaron Pryor, was training in the same gym with him. He was trying to copy everything he did. So Aaron gets down here and he's doing push-ups. This kid runs over there. He pushes out 50 push-ups. And he jumps up and he looks at Aaron with a smile on his face and says, hey, I just did 50 push-ups. How many did you do? Aaron gets up, looks at him and says, 15. And the guy looked at him funny. He said, 15? What do you mean 15? And Aaron says, let me ask you a question. Did you just get on the ground, you pushed out 50 push-ups, and jumped up and you were done? Is that correct? The kid said, yes. He said, I got down on the ground, and I did push-ups until I got tired. After I was tired, didn't think I could do anymore, that's when I did 15, because that's the only ones that's important. The other push-ups, I could already do them. They don't help me go further. So I said, you work until you're tired, and your mind says you're done. Your body says you're done, but your mind says, I'm in control, and you got 15 more to do. And that's how boxing is. You work till you're tired, now it's time to go to work. Today, it's, I'm tired, I'm done. No, it's time to go to work. There's no excuses, there's no shortcuts. If you want it, you do it. If you don't want it, you're not going to do it. There's no problem with it. But don't lie to yourself and everyone else and say, I want to be great, but I don't want to work to get there. It's not going to be handed to you. No shortcuts. Shortcut is what? Quick trip to nowhere. Key to remember, you train the way you fight. No difference. You want to play the guitar, you don't practice the piano. You practice the guitar. You want to box, you don't put these silly new gadgets on, you don't do weird things that's not connected to the sport of boxing. You train the sport of boxing. And one last thing I remember, I was trying to wrap it up, but there's one thing I remember. I see these fighters today, they keep changing left-handed. Then they go right-handed. Then they go left-handed. So what they are, they're twice as bad as they would have been if they were bad at one side. Because now they're bad at both sides. Why don't you be good at one side? Perfect your natural side. Protect your natural side. Don't be twice as bad. Okay? Because you are naturally left-handed, you are naturally right-handed. Either or. The reason why you're naturally left or right-handed, because the way we were wired from day one, you wake up and you are, if you're right-handed, you go with your left side out. Because your right eye sees the image, it understands it in your brain, and you got your hand back here for power. If you are a southpaw, you stand this way, you want the image coming here. So if you go opposite of what you are naturally, you're actually hurting yourself because there's a split-second change. It's like when you look in the mirror and it's an opposite vision. You see it the opposite side, your brain now has to flip it over. Now it sees it, now it reacts to it. You lost a split second, and in boxing you know a split second is gone. Right? So if you're at the wrong side, first of all, I got my power hand in front, which loses about 25% of its power because the body's not behind it. If they get past the power hand, I got my weak hand back here, and everything that happens is split-second reaction lost time because the brain has to flip what I see. If I'm here, I can set everything up with this hand, which you perfect to become strong. I react instantly to it. I got my power hand back with my body behind. Makes more sense. So why do you keep changing? And it's because you're confused. He says, I'm trying to confuse the opponent. Well, you're confusing the opponent because he knows he's there with someone who doesn't know how to fight. Now everybody's confused. Confused and concussed. Matter of fact, good.
There's no ambidextrous fighters?
Huh?
There's no such thing as an ambidextrous fighter?
No, he's ambiguous.
Ambiguous?
Yeah, he's amphibious too, he goes underwater. Okay, any questions? Are we okay?
We're good.
We good? Did you like it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very good.
You like it?
Yeah, very good.
Any disagreements with anything?
None.
It's okay, any disagreements? I can do 15 rounds, any disagreements?
You can't have like a fight song before you go into the ring?
What's that?
A fight song before you go into the ring?
Well, you walk into the ring, but
Adrenaline
the fighter has to focus on the fight. If you want to put your entrance music, that's okay for the crowd. The crowd could like that. But see, if I'm in a fighter, you'd be shocked. I can go into an arena. If I'm fighting, I'm in the ring fighting, right? I'm walking down there, I don't hear anything. I'm focused on what's about, and my mind, I'm going to get in the ring, I'm going to climb in a rope. As soon as I'm in the ropes, I am so relaxed because I'm in my office. This is where I belong. What is he doing in my house? That's what my thought is. I live here. This is my house. I'm in this office. That's where I'm in the ring. I guess we're out of film, tape, time. We had a great time because otherwise I'll keep you too late. And I'm too old to be here too late. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's try to have fun. Good? Good? Oh, thank you. Thank you.